opening ceremony of this international hackathon, where tech meets sport and magic happens. What better partner to organise this event with than GAA? In the past few years of living in Ireland, I have clearly noticed the role of GAA in everyday life of the people of this beautiful island, the importance of the togetherness, the sportsmanship, and the role it plays in the mental and physical health of the people. And GAA truly is the place where we all belong in that sense. I would like to extend my gratitude to Microsoft for the warm reception and trust they have shown us, and the reception they've given us from the very first day of planning this event. Pretty sure we will all benefit from the events, the talks, the workshops, the Microsoft's top line speakers will be delivering over the coming days. I cannot emphasize enough how much Eamon Sayers, who's 25 by the way today, and his GC has supported us by giving us a place to call our home for the Irish Tech Society. And also a big shout out to all the sponsors and the Croke Park Stadium, where we initially hoped to stage this event from, and then COVID decided otherwise. Congrats to Gerald O'Connor, Paul Reardon, Pierre Picard, and to the entire event management team for putting together such a prestigious event, not only for Irish Tech Society, GA, and Microsoft, but also for all the contributors and collaborators of Irish Tech Society, all of our members and well-wishers from across the globe. Now, I have a special message from the government chief whip and the Minister of Sport, Gael Tact and Defence, Jack Chambers Tudy. Now, before we play the video, once again, welcome all to the International Hackathon and the opening ceremony. I hope you will all benefit from this event, and all the best to the hackathon attendees and contestants. Now, enjoy the video. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to have been asked to give a short message today. It's such an honour to be part of such an innovative event like this. GAA has led the way on so many great initiatives throughout the years, and it is clear today is another example to add to this. I'd like to thank Fais Faisal, Leah Cullen, Gerald O'Connor, and Paul Reardon for the Irish Tech Society for inviting me to speak to you today. I'd also like to take the opportunity to acknowledge Eric for Microsoft Ireland, Microsoft Europe, and the Guinness Enterprise Centre, their involvement in this event. And of course, a big congratulations to Cumann, Luthchleas, Gael, Uachtarán, John Horan, and the ITC committee led by Sean Dunnion and Thomas Meehan on this historic first for the GAA. As a nation with a strong and deep relationship with the technological industry, it is fitting that Ireland shows real initiative on Ireland's tech sector. I understand the GAA strategic plan, Fais Faisal, place an emphasis on how technology can help achieve the goals and objectives within the strategy. The association rightly recognised that utilising innovative, enhanced technology can increase its capability in governance, administration, marketing, learning, and development. These organisations contribute essential for all sectors, including those involved in sport, where challenges are considerable. Equally, I know that inclusivity and diversity to each of these organisations here today and those teams are key to this event. National Sports Policy, published in 2018, encourages innovation across the sporting landscape, and it recognises particular challenges around growing participation numbers and improving high performance. It signposts how to develop a responsive, innovative, and sustainable sports sector that is capable of identifying, pondering, and delivering the challenging needs of individuals at different points in their lives. These are complex problems that are not easily solved, but events like today's hackathon can help us to navigate that journey. Since my appointment a few months ago, I can see that Irish sport really wants to step up its game and showcase itself. Of course, the sporting body strategies for developing their sports have been severely impacted by the pandemic, but I'm not at all despondent. When I speak to the sporting bodies through various forums, such as the Sports Leadership Group, the Sports Monitoring Group, and others, I can see and sense their determination to improve and grow. The government is acutely aware about the ongoing public health situation has on the entire sports sector. As part of the COVID-19 response in 2020, we announced a record funding package of €85 million, helping to protect and preserve the national sports system in Ireland. We are investing in sports and programs that will play a major part in long-term public health responses to the COVID-19 crisis. Our funding schemes include provision for a new sports innovation fund where both NGBs and LSBs are invited to apply for funding in order to promote and develop new sport and physical activity programs. The need to assist those with less active lifestyles is especially acute. As part of our dormant accounts investment, there is a specific funding stream for innovation, under which I was interested to note that GAA have been allocated over €100,000 for a GIS mapping tool. I look forward to seeing the results of that project, which is designed to respond to demographic movement and changes across the island. To conclude, best wishes again to all the organisers and to those at the virtual host venue in Crow Park, where the Irish Tech Society are taking the lead. Even though sport has had to come to a virtual halt for the moment, there are definitely better days ahead for sport. It is really exciting how tech can positively impact both the GAA and for sport in Ireland as a whole. Gunyari and Horan.
Thank you very much, Grant. So that was a word from the Minister of Sports and Defence. So we are actually going to be welcoming up Gerald O'Connor. Gerald, I'm going to give the floor over to you.
Agus Fais Faisal Gael Hackathon Fais Faisal in Cornwall le Cumann technoliacht and Horan Cumann Luthchleas agus an Yart le Microsoft Ireland. The next guest, when he became president, the highest honour in the GAA has to bestow on anyone. Little did he realise at that time, 3 years ago, the challenges he would face, but face them he did, and he got us through the pandemic safely, and we completed our fixtures, even if all errands were held on peculiar dates. It's also a testament to the GAA that every county council who formed a committee to look after matters dealing with the pandemic had a GAA member on each of those committees, and that shows you the extent to which the GAA is involved in the community, in the Irish community, in the island of Ireland and around the world. My abiding memory of John Horan's presidency is in more normal times when it has to be said, our hurling captain in Sligo went to collect the trophy, the Nicky Racker Cup, an All-Ireland Cup. Now, small of stature, he was ascending the Hogan Stand steps when he met the large frame of John Horan. But the young fella, 19 at the time, spotted his grandmother in the Orcorda and went over to give her a hug. And this kind of put the proceedings out of kilter a little bit, but order was restored and the cup was presented. It's moments like this you live for in the GAA. Agus mar sin Fíorchas orm Cornwall Divanis, Specialta Cumann Luthchleas Gael, agus Uachtarán Mochara Sean O'Horan.
Gramagad Garoid, agus Tom an buick as an Cora and show an Uachliv. An okay, Specialta show Hackathon Fais Faisal. I'm delighted as president of the GAA to be here with you this evening for the launch of the hackathon. I'm having, ironically, a slight technical difficulty here in getting my screen, but I take it I am on screen and I'm sound with everybody. But I would just like to, acknowledge, and unfortunately we're in the middle of COVID when we're actually doing this, but to acknowledge the work and the adaptability of the people in the background in bringing this evening's launch together and the events that are going to follow on from tonight's launch. I think it's important to us as a sporting organisation to challenge ourselves, and I think this is what will come out of this. I think it will be an independent view of people looking at technological links to us as an organisation in sport and seeing where we can actually gain benefits from it. I think particularly for those that are actually going to engage in it, I think it's a huge personal development exercise for yourselves and great to have this opportunity. And it's a credit to you that you've actually decided to embrace it, because I think you're going to find yourselves in a new environment, mixing with new people, dealing with new ideas. And all of this at a very young age is huge to actually developing you as an individual. It also stands you in good stead going forward in different varieties of life and its challenges, that you've found yourself mixing with a new group of people, working that dynamic through, but working a planning process through and challenging some of the features of an organisation like the GAA and the sport that we do. It's a great credit to FAIS Faisal, it's the Irish Technology Society, our own IT committee. And it's great to see that the Minister, Jack Chambers, has given recognition to this. And I think he, in his few words there, prompted us to see the value of sport in society. And I think sport has played a huge part in society in the restricted environment that we've lived in for the last 10 months, in the context that it has given people an opportunity to physically engage in activity, mentally meet up with friends and engage with them, because the environment in which it was done was always a consciousness that it was done in a safe and caring manner of the actual people. I'd also like to acknowledge the role of Microsoft in the background and sponsoring this and driving this on. But it's great credit to those that came up with the initiative. And I think, Jared, you played a huge part in bringing this to the table of the GAA. And that, for everybody, is going to be a huge plus. I'm looking forward to see the outcomes from it, because we as an organization have always been open to change and challenge ourselves and see, can we do things in a different manner? And I would hope from this that some ideas can be brought forward. And I'm quite sure, as I finish at the end of February, the new Uachtarán, Larry McCarthy, would be very open to actually taking on board some of the outcomes from the actual work. So just to thank everybody that has put it together, Sean Dunyan and Tomas Meehan, to Jared, to the actual IT Society and the FAIS Faisal as well for their work, and Microsoft again for their actual support. So all I can do is wish you all the best of luck with it, and hope that everybody gets an enjoyable but a positive experience from the whole hackathon.
Thank you so much for that, John. We, myself and Oli, are really excited to actually be a part of this and to be able to facilitate and participate like this. Before we move on to the panel, we do have a few special guests that we would like to introduce you to. So without further ado, firstly, I would like to introduce the Irish Tech Society Board Director, Leah Cullen.
Thank you, CK, for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here as well. I just have a few really quick words to say. Thank you firstly to Minister Jack Chambers for the wonderful video message, and to you, John Horan, as well, for being here live with us today despite your very busy schedule to inaugurate this event. Some of the many things we do here at the Irish Tech Society are facilitating collaborations in all areas of life where technology is used, and we promote innovation as well, but mainly what we do is we support the people behind the tech. So being here today and seeing all the people involved, the special guests, speakers, mentors, facilitators, contestants, attendees, and having the opportunity to do this event with GAA and Microsoft and the Guinness Enterprise Centre and all the other sponsors, it really highlights the importance of what we do at the Society. So congratulations to Paul Reardon, to Gerald O'Connor, to Pierre Picard and the entire organising committee behind this event. And on behalf of everyone at Irish Tech Society, welcome to everyone, and best wishes to all the contestants and the attendees.
Perfect. And then we have the Irish Tech Society's Head of Strategy and Project Head for Hackathon, Paul Reardon.
Thank you, CK. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. We really do appreciate it. I just really wanted to thank everyone who took part in organising this event, who support this event, and who's speaking at this event. Just absolutely everyone. The Irish Tech Society is a non-for-profit organisation. We're all volunteers. None of us are paid for this. Everyone is volunteering their time to this event, and that's included for all the mentors, the speakers, and everyone involved today. So I just wanted to give my appreciation for their incredible contribution to this. And a short one to the attendees. I just want to wish you the very best for this event. It's quite a difficult event. It's quite tough, but the results of it are well worth the input you put in. If you work hard, if you try to collaborate, you're only stopped by the level of your imagination and the belief in yourself. And I just want to remind you that while this is a competition, it's not about winning. It's what you learn on this weekend is what you win, and that's what you take away. I did a couple of these hackathons in my earlier years, and I must say they have set me on a path that changed my life completely. And if you approach this event in the right way, then the same can happen for you. So look, that's everything for myself. Best of luck. And just to remind you, if you ever have a problem, if you have any questions, know that the organization team will be here throughout the weekend. So will the facilitators. So lean on us if you need any help, and we'll be more than happy to accommodate. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Paul. I feel like everyone's energized and ready and gearing to go, but we still have a few things to get through and to introduce other people who have been integral to organizing and hosting this event. So I'm actually going to ask Mr. Michael McCarthy, ITS spokesperson, to introduce himself.
Thank you, Noni. Can I just express a very warm Céad fáilte to everyone this evening for this very special occasion. And I do so from the town of San Maguire. I'm over in my local enterprise centre where we have a 1 gigabit broadband connection, which guarantees me not roaring at young children or suffering the embarrassment of intermittent Wi-Fi, but also the home place of San Maguire, who was born just 3 miles out the road from here. Obviously the cup, the most prized possession in GAA football history, named after him. So I think there's a special connection there this evening. Can I acknowledge the role that Gerard and Faz and others put into involving this very unique event. It's no mean feat to get the government chief whip to make an address, and also get the involvement of the president of the GAA Association, John Horan. And not difficult in the best of times, but I think more difficult in the current uncertain times that we live in. I think we've demonstrated as a country that there's great ability there, and there's a great resistance to the pandemic, but there's also a great resilience that us Irish people have. And if you go to the fore of what makes us uniquely Irish, you'll find the fibre and the DNA of the GAA props us up as who we are, not just on the island of Ireland, but on the global stage. And I want to acknowledge the role that the GAA have played in this. I want to acknowledge the involvement and the support of Microsoft, but also the huge heavy lifting done by Faz and Gerald and others on part of the ITS over the last number of weeks and days. Strange and all is the times that we are living in. Events like this can remind us of what we're able to achieve when we pull together. I want to wish all of the panelists and all of the contributors the very, very best, and I hope to speak to you all again this evening on around 6:30. So to conclude with, thank you very much indeed for the invitation and the opportunity to address this evening's proceedings.
Thanks very much for that, Michael. I'm always about giving props where props is due, so good for you in doing that. And then we have next the manager at Guinness Enterprise Centre, Eamon Sayers. I'm going to give you the platform.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, everybody. It's always fitting when we talk about Sam Maguire that a Kerry man is up next. Joking aside, the other thing I had to laugh so far was Paul Reardon, a Limerick man, speaking about it's not about winning. It always reminds me that the people who win are the people who always say it's not about winning. You know, they're learning quick. The Limerick lads are learning quickly from the Dubs. I manage the Guinness Enterprise Centre in Dublin. It's the largest enterprise centre in Ireland. It's been recognised as one of the leading startup hubs across the world at the UBI Global Awards recently. Small businesses are the backbone of the Irish economy. And in the same way, the GAA is the backbone of the Irish communities. And I think it's very fitting that the work we do would sit very closely with the work of the Croke Park and the GAA across the country. My own GAA background was, I did a small bit of work with the GAA as a volunteer, as everyone does. I ran GAA Week on the Den way back in 2005 as a volunteer, and we had the 4 major trophies from camogie, ladies football, senior football, men's, and hurling in every day as part of the festival of the week. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how tech and how the people involved and all the contestants get involved, and not only just for the GAA, but also for the communities across the country and for other sports, what we can learn from each other and how we can drive on our sport and become global players in what we do. And from the Guinness Enterprise Centre's perspective, if out of the ideas people believe there are businesses there, well, we're on hand to help them, mentor them, and help them create business plans, and just see is there a business model for them to drive on with the ideas that are going to be generated. So the best of luck to everybody participating, and we're all winners, Paul. So take care and best of luck to everyone.
Eamon, thank you so much for that really lovely introduction, and for motivating all our participants and everybody to just gather together and, you know, innovate and plow through as we usually do. And you spoke about the resilience of the people. I also want to just say a very special happy birthday to you. You might not have wanted it mentioned, but we all need some birthday magic happening at the moment. So, you know, happy birthday. And if anybody wants to also wish Eamon a happy birthday, throw it in the chat. I'm sure he the
Thank you,
congratulations. You look really young, so you have nothing to worry about. Next, I'm going to just introduce Mr. Pierre Picard of the Irish Tech Society advisor to say a few words as well.
Thank you very much, Noni. Thank you everyone actually for supporting and participating to this event. I am really delighted to be here and to welcome you all. I'm actually working for Microsoft, but I'm also trying to contribute to the best I can to the development of the Irish Tech Society. So I have to say I'm very excited and particularly proud to see these two great organizations joining forces today to deliver to GAA what I think is the best that technology can offer. It's bringing people together from different backgrounds, different profiles, different cultures. Look at me, I'm actually French on a GAA call. That's what's extremely exciting about this event. So thank you again for everyone to participating. I think we will end up with great ideas, innovative solutions for the future of sports. Again, this is very exciting. Thanks again for being here, and enjoy this event.
Thanks so much for that, Pierre. Your excitement is actually contagious because you're making me even more excited. Next up, we have the Irish Tech Society ambassador. We have James Tracy. James, if I could call you up to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I feel privileged to be in such great company. I can see the slagging has already begun, so I'll maybe get into the private chat. So I won't come on here so I can get bombarded by everyone. But I'd just like to welcome everyone. Just like the Irish Tech Society welcomed me in and took me into the family. Such a great group, and really excited to be part of this event. Thank you to Microsoft and the GAA for the sponsorship and the kind words from John and the lads. And I look forward to seeing how the competitions go down.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, James. We are absolutely thrilled to have you on as well. Next, I'm going to be calling on our Irish Tech Society ambassador, Ian Fitzpatrick. Ian, if you could introduce yourself.
Evening, guys. Yeah, look, let me start off by saying I'm delighted to be here. I think I could be the newest member of the Irish Tech Society, so I'm quite fresh, but I can already see the tremendous work that they've put in along with the GAA and Microsoft to put this event together. So I've no doubt it's going to be fantastic. Look, secondly, best luck to the participants. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing what you guys put together. And come Sunday, it's going to be fantastic to see the different ideas and different solutions you guys might have. But yeah, best of luck to everyone and enjoy it.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to actually now just allow Mr. Sean Dunnan, who is the chair of the IT committee of the GAA, if he would like to just say a few words and share for our participants and viewers today.
Hey, thanks, Noni. Yeah, on behalf of Sean Dunnan, just on behalf of the IT committee in Croke Park, delighted to be involved today. It's a great privilege for the GAA to be partnering with the Irish Tech Society and Microsoft on this unique event, as been mentioned a few times. I was just thinking back, I think this first come to my notice was via a WhatsApp message from Gerald O'Connor. One evening, I didn't know what he was talking about, but that was where it started, and the conversations got going then, and we've come to this evening where we've we have 68 participants on the meeting at the moment. So it just goes to show what could be done, can be done. So ideally, it would have been great to have this event in a physical world in Croke Park or one of our other venues, but I've no doubt it's still going to be a great event online. So just want to wish everybody the very best of success. I've no doubt come Sunday evening we'll have some great ideas that have come to the fore, and looking forward to seeing that on Sunday evening, and there'll certainly be quite a number of ideas I'm sure that we'll be able to bring forward into through technology into the GAA. So thanks to everybody.
Thanks a million, Sean. I'm also, encouraged by enthusiasm that even though we can't all be together in one shared space, we can create some magic online. Virtual is where it's at now. And I'm also going to just invite Mr. Thomas Meehan to say a few words, and he's the Chief Information Officer of the GAA. So Thomas, if you'd like to just share with us, please.
Thanks, Tony. Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to speak to you all this evening. As Noni said, I'm the Chief Information Officer for the GAA. I'm responsible for technology within the association. So I guess I'm really, this is my first involvement in a hackathon. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the output of the next number of days. It'd be really good to see the different approaches that can be brought to the challenges that we have that exist. I'm really keen to see maybe different takes and innovative ideas to some of the challenges and problems that exist. I've been looking at some of these issues for quite a while, so it'll be really good to get fresh input and fresh ideas from people who may have no exposure whatsoever to the GAA. I think whilst we are a sporting body, a lot of the challenges that we have are agnostic of sport. It's about efficiency, it's about compliance with legislation. It's about doing things better, and what better way to try and enable that than using technology. So I think we've got a really good group here that should be able to bring good ideas and fresh impetus to what we're trying to do in Croke Park. I'd echo the sentiments from others on here. I think the work that the Irish Tech Society has done to pull this event together has been tremendous. Paul and Fais in particular, I've liaised very closely with, so well done to you guys, and of course the sponsors without whom this event couldn't happen. I think, Michael, you might have alluded to the fact that Sam Maguire was born in Dunmanway. I think John Horan would say that he now lives in Dublin. I think if anyone can come up with a piece of technology that stops Dublin winning the next All-Ireland, I think that's a nailed-on winner. So anyway, enjoy the next few days. Looking forward to working with everyone, and have fun, I guess.
Thanks, Emil, Thomas. And I see what you did there. You threw a few little hints for the participants to kind of get them engaged with the problem solving. So that was very smart. So yeah, we're going to hear now from Mr. Jack O'Connor, who is the Irish Tech Society ambassador.
Thanks very much, Noni. I think I will be echoing the vast majority of messages and intent that has been said already this evening, but fantastic to be involved in such an amazing hackathon idea. As Noni said, I'm representing the ITS at the moment, formerly the United Nations Youth Representative to Ireland. I suppose similar to Paul, as a proud Limerick man, I take great pride in being from an area that celebrates good success in both technology and sport. Birthplace of the Collison brothers, who obviously founded the now fantastic Stripe, and obviously home to what we hope is the incoming dynasty of the Limerick hurling team. I think I speak for everybody here when I echo the importance that both sport and tech has to play, especially nowadays. Both areas have had a fantastic opportunity indeed around the world to transcend borders, to transcend race, to transcend the vast majority of barriers that often exist in society. We've seen with COVID the drastic increase in technology, and conversely we've seen the drastic reduction of sport due to restrictions. What I have to say again echoes very much along the lines of everybody else this evening, but we would not be here without the fantastic work from the organising committee here, the ITS first and foremost, and as well as that from the sponsors, both the GAA and Microsoft Ireland. Finally, I suppose I'd like to give a quick address to the stars of the show, or the All-Ireland winners themselves, which are the attendees of this event. It has been mentioned before, but if you get out what you put in, I'm a firm believer of that. So work hard, collaborate with each other, work on good ideas, push the boundaries if you can, collaborate, connect, and network. And I can guarantee you will have a fantastic few days ahead. And with that, thank you very much.
Thanks, Emil, Jack. That was actually really great. As you said, collaborate, connect, and network. So we'll keep those three, concepts as we go along with the event. I'm going to also just introduce Mr. Juarez Barroso Jr., who is the Azure Developer Relations Lead at Microsoft.
Thanks a lot. Yes, I'll support the event over the weekend, and we have a technical team as well. We'll be joined by Cedric Stembank and Nishan Jain, who are cloud solution architects, and we reserved Azure passes, so the participants, they will have the opportunity to implement the MVPs and deploy to Azure. And also we prepared several technical resources, code samples, and everything else to support the event. So I'm the go-to person during the event in case you want to implement your ideas beyond the MVP, and we'll support all the things. Thanks a lot indeed. And it's a pleasure to participate. It's a delight for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've heard from our special guest speakers, and I don't know about you guys, but Noni, I'm feeling really excited about what's going to be happening. I kind of wish that I could participate as well. Feeling a little bit jealous here that you guys left us out, but it's cool. It's cool. We're not going to get mad. It's okay. So just moving on, we'd like to thank you so much, guys, for introducing yourselves and just for making the participants and attendees more familiar about what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be helping out throughout the hackathon. So it's time for us to move on to the main event. So we are so excited that myself and my co-host Noni are going to be moderating the sports and tech panel today, and we have some really amazing panelists joining us today. So Noni, I don't know about you, I'm really bad. I hate introducing someone and talking about their work, and I always think it's always better when they do it themselves. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, just if you're gonna blow your own horn, blow your own horn,
Exactly. Okay, perfect. So instead of introducing our amazing panelists to you, I'm actually going to give them the platform to introduce themselves. So I'll start first with James. James, if you could introduce yourself, please.
I assume you mean me.
Yeah, sorry, James Tracy, yourself, yeah.
So James Tracy's my name. I'm originally from Kildare, if you haven't already figured that out. I'll be willing to put up €1 million bounty for anyone who can come up with a technological solution for Kildare to win an All-Ireland. I don't have the money, but I will. I'm sure I'll find some Kildare people who will put a little bit of money together for the winner. I have a background in GAA in primary school. I played football the whole way through. I have 3 county final medals, and very proud of them all. I went to Newbridge College then and started playing rugby, and followed that pathway to where I am today. I played for Ireland, and I play currently for Leinster. I'm over 110 times now, so more than I ever thought I would. My original plan was to play for Man United, so I'm still holding out on that one after their 9-0 defeat last night. But yeah, so I started a barbershop 3 years ago with 2 partners, and from that venture I've started a new application that the Irish Tech Society helped me build and put together, ZeroQ, a booking platform and payment gateway. So that's my new exciting project with the guys and what got me involved with them. But yeah, that's my sums me up pretty much.
Thanks for that. I actually have someone there who said they're good for a 1K to make that happen for you. So people are already signing up. We'll get that win. So I'm going to slide over to Ian Fitzpatrick. Ian, do you mind letting us know, toot your own horn, just like James did, so we can find out a little bit more about you?
Well, firstly, as a proud Meath man, I'll happily help out James to try and get this off the ground. But yeah, no, thanks for the introduction. So like James, I'm a rugby player, except instead of 15s, I play sevens. Sevens is slightly different. There's less players, and I suppose the best difference is instead of kind of playing in the depths of winter in Ireland, Wales, and Scotland, we usually chase the sun. So I'm used to kind of being in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa for the year, so it's a bit different at the moment. But we're holding out hope that we'll be in Tokyo for the Olympics in the summer. So fingers crossed that all goes well. But look, I suppose apart from that, and probably the reason why I'm here is just my interest in technology. Growing up, I've always been interested in it, and it probably wasn't until a few years ago that I kind of looked at technology as a potential for me to go into when I do eventually retire. I remember a couple of years ago, I just finished my BCom and I was delighted with myself. I went to my granny to tell her the good news, and I'm pretty sure one of the first things she said to me when I told her was, "Oh, that's great. So you can go to rugby and get yourself a proper job like your cousin." So look, from that, I kind of had to think about where I wanted to go. So I got myself into cybersecurity. So I've been kind of studying that now for the last year and a half, and I'm absolutely loving it. So look, yeah, tonight it seems like it's going to be very special. The panel's fantastic. Hopefully, James and myself can maybe give you a bit of an insight as to how technology is so deeply integrated in literally everything we do. Every day we train, and look, maybe we can give you an insight and maybe where we think technology could help us in the future to kind of maybe help us get an upper hand or kind of help us as we go forward into the next chapter. But look, as I say, really looking forward to tonight, and if you have any questions, shoot them in the chat box and I'll happily answer them as we go along.
Thanks a million for that, Ian. And just to iterate that the chat function is there for everybody to utilize. So, send away and put in whichever you, whatever ideas you want to share with us or a perspective. Because I think myself and CK, even doing this co-hosting, we were thinking like we want to just embody a spirit of collaboration. So let's do that as much as we can and, just share ideas. I'm gonna ask Mr. Eamon Sayers, who's also another lovely panelist, to just introduce himself and toot his own horn and let us know of his esteem.
Yeah, how are you? Back again. So GAA wise, my club at home in Kerry is St. Pat's GAA Club, small little club in the West Kerry. But very, very proud. I keep telling the coaches I haven't retired yet. But they stopped picking me a long time ago, unfortunately. I played at school, played in college with the University of Limerick, was lucky enough to train under Paddy O'Shea with Kerry for a while, which is a different story entirely, probably a 9 p.m. threshold. So it's probably required to tell Paddy stories. Then got involved, sat on Munster Marketing Committee in the early noughties through a presentation I gave to Sean Kelly about how the GAA should be marketing itself. And it's great to see so many of those initiatives have come into place. I had to leave that role because I got a job with Irish Rugby and ended up developing the strategy for Irish Rugby from 2008 to 2012. So jokingly, I always claim credit for any of the Munster or Leinster wins since, or the blame, depending on which province you support. Since I left Irish Rugby, my cousin got a catastrophic injury playing rugby, suffered a significant injury. And a month after he passed away, I left the RFU, went off and did an MBA. And after the MBA, became manager of the Guinness Enterprise Centre. And one of our role is, if you come into us with a business idea, we'll help you with the business plan, with the market strategy, help you become investor ready, and help you with access to finance throughout that. And with many sports tech companies I would have visibility on, not alone in Ireland, but because of my interest in sport on an international level. But just briefly, I just want to call out, because I see one of them here. The Sports Tech Ireland have done great work in the space. So Gráinne Barry, Martina Skelly, Emily Ross, very proud Limerick based people. I don't think they're all from Limerick. They've done some great work in the space, and Ireland is very, very competitive when it comes to sports tech, and I hopefully we'll be able to share some of their stories over the weekend.
Thanks, Emil, Eamon. Greatly appreciated. Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Sean Dunnan to also just introduce himself as our panelist.
Okay, thanks, Nonny. I just a Donegal man, and maybe unlike some of the other contributors there, we've been lucky enough to have won All Ireland in the recent past anyway, so at least we've had that experience. So again, just to say, delighted to be here this evening. Former chairman of Donegal GAA for 5 years, and then I'm very privileged to be chairperson of the IT committee in Croke Park, and thanks to Uachtarán for giving me that role at the start of his tenure. It's been a very busy 3 years. Technology really, I suppose, is central to everything we do now. Particularly in the last 12 months, the role of technology has been probably recognised as greater than ever with regards to the GAA being able to continue on with its activities, be it meetings, AGMs, the return to play, the COVID questionnaires. So technology has been central to everything we've been that the GAA has been trying to keep things on the road this last 12 months in particular. So I work with Donegal County Council, network and infrastructure project lead there. So I do a lot of work with Microsoft as well. Microsoft, of course, is a partner to almost everybody now in the tech sector. So looking forward to the next few days. As I said earlier, I've no doubt and Tomas alluded to, we have a lot of challenges. We still have a lot of labour-intensive administrative tasks within the GAA that would certainly benefit from technology. So that's really one of our mission statements, is to try and lessen the burden on our volunteers by implementing technology solutions. So hopefully that'll be some of the outcomes that we'll see here at the end of the weekend. So thanks again.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that, Sean. And toot toot on your horn there. Next, we're going up as our panelists. We are going to ask Thomas Meehan. So, Thomas, would you mind sliding on in there and tooting your own horn so we can find out what you've been doing and what you've been up to?
Sure. I am muted. Sorry. Yeah, thanks for that. Thomas Meehan is my name. I am, I suppose, a former Gaelic footballer. I played football at quite a high level, and I was lucky enough to win the All Ireland twice, playing for Galway. Ironically, we beat Kildare on one occasion and Meath on another. So I think James and Ian, there could be issues there. Unfortunately, lost the third, and that was to Kerry. So I think there's a few unresolved issues with Kerry on my side. I'm a DCU graduate, Trinity graduate, and I've been working in the technology space for about 22 years at this stage. Initially with AIB Bank and latterly with PwC as a technology consultant. I think working as a consultant has probably given me a broad exposure to the kinds of challenges that exist in many different sectors. So sport, I'm obviously familiar with, but banking, professional services, government, every sector that you can consider, there are challenges there that technology can help, and in some cases alleviate, make go away, and in some cases exacerbate and make worse. I think technology, in my view, is an enabler. It should be used to make the lives of the people using, following a particular process or doing a particular role. It should be used to make their lives easier. And within the GAA, obviously, same as any sport, the focus is nearly universally on the players. But there's a huge amount of other kind of stakeholders within sports that also need support and also need help, be it from governance or administration, the governing bodies who look after the sport, be it the volunteers or committees in clubs who organise meetings and fundraise for teams and drive the ball of the match. The players, obviously, so you have elite as Ian and James are, And then you have the as unelite as you can possibly get, who tog out on a Sunday morning for the fun of it. They equally need to be served, and technology can help them to achieve what they want from sport. Parents and coaches, parents in particular, I'm a parent myself, and it is a logistical challenge to manage all of the commitments that children have. You know, all the competing priorities from sport to dancing to music, whatever it might be. And, you know, that's a challenge I see that isn't fully solved from what I can see at the moment anyway. Then obviously you've got sponsors, media, broadcasters, people like that. They all have particular requirements around sport and challenges that hopefully technology can alleviate. And finally, obviously, supporters, fans, people who go to the games, enjoy the games. I think everybody who watches sport does so on at least 2 screens at the moment. You're watching it on the telly and you're texting your friends, or you're doing whatever else. So I think the fan experience, be it through interactive stats, be it through whatever second device people might be using, I think that's something that is really, it's a potential growth area, particularly for GAA and Irish sport in general, but sport globally as well. So I've kind of rambled off topic a little bit there, but from my perspective, I've been involved in the sport as a player, I've been involved in the sport as a coach, as a parent, as a fan, obviously, and now I'm involved in administration and governance as well. So I have many hats, no caps, unfortunately, like James, but many hats. And I think there are a lot of people like me who need support, and technology is one area that can help.
Thanks a million, Tomas. I kind of feel like you've hit on a lot of the points that we'll be speaking about on the panel. So please keep that energy. And yeah, like, let's share ideas. I'm going to ask Mr. Jonathan Eustace to also introduce himself as a panelist for this evening.
Thanks, Nonny, and good evening, everybody. Yeah, as Nonny said, my name is Jonathan Eustace, and I'm the small and mid-market business lead for Microsoft in Ireland. And I'd just like to start by thanking both the Irish Tech Society and the GAA for inviting us to be part of this hackathon. It's a really great event, and it allows me to bring 2 of my passions in sport and technology together, although I definitely don't have any of the sporting pedigree as most of our other panelists here today, but I am an avid fan. I won't take too much time in terms of an introduction, because hopefully we'll get into the meat of the discussion. But I think it's really interesting, the divergence of the convergence of sport and technology, and the impact that can have on the fan experience, the sports person's experience, and how we all engage with it. So really looking forward to the panel discussion today, and the events over the coming days as well.
Thanks a million, Jonathan. And last but not least, I'm going to introduce Mr. Ronan Danaher, who's going to also just introduce himself as a panelist.
Hi guys, good evening. Thomas, sorry about this, but I'm going to have to stick on the side of James and Ian. As someone born in Meath, played handball for Cavan and now living in Kildare, I don't really come from a winning county, any counties at all. Listen, I'm very pleased to be here. I'm not going to go through everything, just like Jonathan said there. Thomas has rattled off probably everything I was going to say. So it just shows you, it doesn't matter if it's a different sport or a different shape ball, we all have the same challenges. Our number one challenge, same as every sport, is players and player welfare. And then after that, it's about the sport being entertaining, both for the fans, for the players, for the families, and just making it as easy for everybody to do their job as possible, because there's a lot of people involved. There's an awful lot more volunteers involved than there is paid people as well. So to all the people doing the hackathon, just think of that. It's not all about the people that you see on the middle of the pitch, or the players, or even the administrators. It's the thousands and thousands of volunteers that we have as well. So I'll finish up by saying the very best of luck to you all. And yeah, like Jonathan says, let's get into the meat of it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for that, Ronan. I'm sorry. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much, guys, for joining us this evening. You have a wealth of knowledge, information that we can't wait to tap into. Me and Noni are just literally so eager to get started. So I'm actually going to start the panel. I'm going to ease you guys in. Just in regards, we're talking about sports and tech. So I'm going to aim the first question at our sports players there, with James and Ian. As sports players, what is the role of technology in your careers? I'll get Ian to go first because I've been picking on you first, James. So I'll get you to go second this time.
Yeah, look, that's no worries. Yeah, look, I don't know what for us as athletes, sport has incredible value for us. I mean, over the last number of years, just for example, the kind of videos we can get is incredible. Like now, I know teams are using GoPros, we're using drones to get different footage. Some teams are actually using virtual reality, which is just 10 years ago, you never would have thought that could happen. I think for me, one of the biggest ones, especially for players, is actually injury prevention. As a player, the last thing you want to do is sit on a sideline. And even as a manager, as an organization, you don't want your players injured. So at the moment, I'm not sure if you've seen players, but a lot of us now, we wear, like, they're kind of like sports bras. We wear them under our jerseys, and behind on the sports bra is a GPS unit. And essentially what this unit does is it tracks pretty much every blade of grass that we cover, which is obviously great, but obviously if you're trying to hide, you can't really, it's all there for you to see. But look, with that, nearly, I think every professional team now has a kind of sports scientist, and the data they can pull, they can look at previous trends, and they can nearly see if you're on that threshold between kind of getting an injury and not, they can pull you back. And as players, we understand that, look, it's for the greater good. But I think that for us has been fantastic, and it's probably saved me once or twice where maybe my load's been too high during a week or during a couple of weeks, and they pull me back. And I know myself that it definitely has saved me from getting a proper injury, which is the last thing as a player you want. I'm not sure if James echoes that or what he thinks.
Yeah, I think yeah, pretty much exactly what you're saying. So the longer this goes on, the smarter, obviously, but the more data they have. Basically, the sports scientists use different thresholds of a certain amount of accels, an accel being, say, maybe 5 meters per second, or decels done per week or per day. They can kind of gauge your injury profile. So when you break certain thresholds or certain amount of meters run or high speed meters run, and again, they would do this positionally. So the bigger, heavier guys wouldn't have the same threshold as the likes of Ian. So myself and Ian definitely wouldn't have the same metrics. But yeah, they're able to use the data to manage loads, and it means they can reduce the chances of injury by like 20-30%. Which is huge. I think, if you get 1 or 2% gains in any facet of life, it's pretty good. A lot, like a few even apps that we use, just to list off. Huddle is one we use for home, for looking through all of our video and analysis. We obviously, or we're not obviously, but we have a analysis room. But again, with databases of all the teams we're playing against, and they're all coded down to players, and the game is coded down and separated into different things, whatever you want to delve into. We use this new app actually called Teamworks, which is brilliant. It's pretty much an all-in-one schedule, chat, video. You can get your GPS data. You can have breakaway conversations within it. And then stuff like recovery, like Tackle Your Feelings is it's a free app that you can use for mindfulness and stuff like that, away from the actual physical part of the game. And then, stuff like recovery pumps, and even like Apple Watches and Whoops for monitoring your sleep, because recovery is nearly as important as anything else.
If I can just quickly add to James's point there at the end about recovery and downtime outside of the game. Obviously, at the moment, with just how it is, mental well-being is so huge. And look, as athletes, we're the same. We kind of feel pressure, and especially week by week, it can be tough. Let's say we don't have a good game. One thing I found around kind of our peers and stuff is they're actually using technology to like get themselves out of that kind of pressure situation. So a lot of the lads I know are playing PlayStation or playing Xbox a lot. And what it does is it's an outlet for them to kind of just take themselves away from that pressurized environment. And I think over this a couple of years ago, everyone saw kind of games consoles as taken away from getting outside and as a bad thing. But I've actually found it recently that it's another tool lads are using to help them and to help their mental well-being, which I think I never really would have thought about a couple of years ago. So that's fantastic.
So you're saying that all athletes should get PS5s. Is that you endorsing that message there, Ian? I just want to make
I'm looking at Sony to hopefully get the PS5 if anyone on the call here is willing to give me one.
So like my wife is just gonna hear that being like he's said it, like everyone who plays sports needs to get a PS5. It's good for your mental well-being. No, thanks for that, me and James. So I'm hearing a lot about like data in regards of your performance, your endurance, and then recovery. I'm wondering, I might actually point this question towards Tomas, just in regards of what are some of the areas of sports management where technology is heavily used. So I know that James and Ian touched on some of it, but if you could bring it a little bit deeper in regards to the behind the scenes from sports management piece and the type of tech you use.
I suppose from a governing body or an administration perspective, obviously we're very heavily reliant on things like communications tools. So the GAA uses Microsoft Office 365 as its primary kind of office productivity suite. We have over 12,000 licenses or entitlements for Office 365, which are used throughout the country by GAA clubs. It's really important, collaboration, productivity, and so on. These are the less glamorous elements of the administration that people don't always fully realize. But if you need to communicate with a club and tell them, your insurance issue or whatever it might be, you need to have an address to reach that person. You need to be confident that it'll reach there and so on. So communications and the governance communications and being confident that you're communicating with the right person and the right person is communicating with you is really, really important. If you flip that the other way from the club to, let's say, a parent, it's incredibly important that a parent is confident that the person they're communicating with from their club is a legitimate person who should be talking and should be looking after their child on a Saturday morning. And, there's a whole child welfare side to it. So the communications tools are really important for enabling both good communication, but also the governance side of things. The second element, and as a governing body, one of the most important aspects you have is your registration, your affiliations, your players who are eligible to participate, who's covered by insurance or player injury fund, as the case might be. So our central repository or central registration database is incredibly important. Off the back of that, things like discipline can happen, eligibility to compete. So obviously there's different grades and different tiers, and depending on how an individual performs, they may play for one team, and if they're good, they get promoted to the first team, and they're no longer eligible for the reserve team as such. So managing that is an important side of it. I think the two lads have spoken about their own statistical analysis and what's recorded about them for their individual needs. I think if you go back to maybe an earlier stage in the player pathway, if you're looking at the development of a young player, typically what happens is, somebody's pretty good at 14, they have a coach, and then they play under 15 or 16, they have a different coach, and then play for somebody else at under 17 or under 18 level. And often their development is disjointed. When you move from one coach, they may have different priorities, they may have different thoughts about what you need to develop, and it can end up sometimes with a fragmented approach to the development of a player. And I think understanding and being able to manage an individual player's metrics and performance stats and being able to bring that with the player rather than with the coach is really important. So it's something that's the GAA has worked on and has a kind of a platform in place to manage that. But I suppose the performance of the player moves with the player, and each coach has access to that. Whereas historically, maybe a coach would have had their own little repository that when they stopped coaching a player, they kept, and the player lost the information. So that kind of thing is one area of player development that that has come on quite a bit over the last while. The last thing, I'll just very quickly run through this from a governing body perspective. Compliance is incredibly important. So GDPR, data protection, obviously everyone's familiar with that, but when you consider there are in the order of 1,700 GA clubs on the island of Ireland, every single one of those is a data controller in the eyes of the law. Every one of those has massive obligations, and you're dealing with volunteers. It's very hard to upskill a volunteer to the level they need to be. So we try very hard to support those in from a compliance perspective. GDPR is a big one. The safeguarding the child welfare legislation is a really big compliance piece for all governing bodies in everywhere. And I suppose those two would really drive a lot of the things we try to do and a lot of supports we try to give clubs and volunteers.
Perfect. Thanks, Thomas. Just what you saying that it's interesting for me to see just in regards of we'll look at the back end of sports and how it's managed and the administration, but how much it heavily relies on things such as technology, because like you were just saying there in regards of, let's say, an athlete changes coaches throughout the year, so much information is lost. So it's really good to see that it is beneficial and it is being used, and it also is able to kind of contribute towards the development of a player. I'm going to direct this next question over to Eamon. With the growth of the startup ecosystem of Ireland, I'm wondering what you think is the influence of sports. How has sports influenced the growth of the startup ecosystem?
Well, it's great. You know, people say if you work at something you love, you don't feel like you're working. I know there's like this. The phrase escapes you. There's a bit, you know, you don't work a day in your life if you're doing something you love. You know, so I think there's an automatic draw to sport. And I have to remember my times in Irish rugby as a worker there. People were always a bit jealous, probably because of the seats I had. You know, I was involved at the day of the first game in Croke Park, heavily involved. I was standing beside the teams when they came out, the Ireland-England, when the English national anthem was played, a special moment. So like, I think there are moments in time, especially in Ireland, where we remember where we are when certain events happened. You know, Galway winning back in '98 for the first time in the 60s, I would say, I'd venture, Tomas. You know, at Limerick the same for the first time since the 70s. You know, it's a really special moment, and it's a moment that's shared not just by your friends, but it's shared by families, and it's shared by your family across generations. So you can see automatically how the passion for sport and you know, people are drawn towards that. And then from a work perspective, you can just people are always seeing ideas and always what things they can do better. But I just wrote, you know, even just thinking about today, you know, what does sport entail and startups entail? Well, you could be looking at anything from a food tech startup, a company in the fitness space, in the health space, company in the marketing space, in the coaching space. A lot of people now, you know, when they retire from sport, go into mind coaching and that sort of thing. Wellness, the guy spoke about earlier. Stadiums are now locations. You know, they're places where people go and see their concerts, and there's, you know, 80,000 people watching a concert now. So it's more than just sport, and extended even into the gaming world. And then you're looking at the different technologies, and its future technologies are very much impacted on sport. When the guys spoke earlier about statistics and whether that's in administration, whether that's on the field, you know, we're talking about, that means in more macro sense, that's big data. You know, we're looking at virtual reality, augmented reality, looking at 5G. So we're only at the start of what sport is going to contribute, not just to, you know, and technology sitting right beside it, not only just to sport, but to our communities in general.
Eamon, I really loved what you touched on there, that the elements that are impacted is not just sport, it's all through different sectors. And even when Thomas was talking about GDPR and compliance, I'm from a legal background, so as soon as I heard that, I was like, bing, oh my God. But it really just shows that technology is helping us to keep up to date. But as we evolve and things move, and the world is changing, we also have been asking a lot of technology, and we require a lot of technology now at this point. And I'm just going to throw a question over to Jonathan, just as coming from Microsoft, like where do giant tech companies like Microsoft, how do they feature in tech and other industries as well?
Yeah, I think that there's a number of areas where, as I said at the beginning, like in my introduction, where we're really seeing that convergence of sport and technologies, and some of the other speakers have already touched on that. So, and even the example that Ian gave right at the beginning, those vests they wear that track their analytics. Like one of the leading one of the leading companies that provides that solution has actually built their solution on our cloud platform. And the reason why I think we're seeing like large tech companies play a role in these sort of products is the amount of data that's been collected. If you look at a scenario like that, is really significant, and the level at which it grows isn't manageable for sort of traditional sort of solutions. So having a cloud platform that can scale with you, I think, is really important. But then the security discussion that a number of the speakers have touched on, I think, is really interesting as well. Like if you're thinking about an athlete's specific data or Ian's specific data, that's very personal information to him, but it's also professionally it's information that's very potentially valuable, and you certainly wouldn't want it for organizations, other teams getting access to the data. So building on platforms that have that built in, that's secure. And I think it links into the startups piece that Eamon was touching on as well. Is a lot of these organizations would sometimes find it challenging to access these sort of platforms. Like historically would have found it challenging to access these sort of scale platforms. And I think that's where sort of larger tech organizations are providing a platform that organizations can build on, know that the data is secure, know that it'll scale with them as they continue to grow, and it continue to evolve and meet their needs.
Yeah, 100%. I have to agree, because it seems though, you can build a software or you can build an app, and that will be great on the tech front, but the compliance and the governance and making sure that you're still honoring that it's a person's personal data, and it travels with them, and it's safe, and it's secure as well. I'm just also going to ask you, in terms of Microsoft and your organization, where does it see itself in the future of sports in particularly?
Well, it's really interesting because I feel almost that we're in quite a privileged position, because we get to touch off sports organizations in lots of different ways. Like just to give some examples, sort of beyond the island of Ireland of where Microsoft has worked, like the area of sort of fan engagement and how fans and sports teams can interact. There's some really innovative things that we've seen, especially over the last 12 months, where it's become so disrupted. There's a couple of really interesting examples within the NBA, where they actually the sort of the fan walls that they had were sort of powered by Microsoft Teams, and they're allowing that connection back in with the sports organizations. But even closer to home, we've previously done pilots with them in conjunction with Croke Park, the stadium there that's on most people's backgrounds, and looking at how IoT could be leveraged to provide an experiential fan experience. So we looked at how they could use IoT sensors to monitor the sound coming from a crowd. When I think they did it during one of the All-Ireland finals, and they were doing it sort of an experiential thing where they could say, I think it was Mayo kicked the point, and you could see the noise that came from their crowd. You could Dublin kick the point, and you could hear the noise that came. You could see it visually on the screens in the ground, the noise that came from that. And I think it's all of those sort of scenarios around the fan engagement. I think we touched on the athletes and performance, and the ability to use the analytics at scale and really get insight into where you can find that sort of marginal improvement and performance gains. I think most importantly for us, I think locally, in terms of what we're trying to do within Ireland, is it's really trying to work with organizations that are building solutions for sports tech. We want to really try and support these often what are startup and scale-ups organizations, and help them to build on a secure and scalable platform. And it's an area that we're investing in locally to try and have more resources to help those types of organizations.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was like really insightful, even just what's happening abroad and how it can also be incorporated in Ireland. And even for us just to, you know, take the flag and pioneer new and innovative ways of emerging sports and technology, and making sure that everybody has a very cerebral experience, but still a tangible experience, whether they're the players or they're participants. I'm just going to ask Sean and Ronan, what are some of the challenges that have been faced by the players and administration in these areas? What do you feel need more technological advancement?
I'll come in first there, if it's all right with Ronan. Noni, it was just something that has already been mentioned really by the Minister, the urban-rural divide and the GIS data that has been collected nationally and the data that's available. One of the challenges the GAA have is the urban-rural divide, and a lot of the rural clubs are struggling, you know, with migration towards the cities. So there's a lot of work needs to be done in that whole area to see how we can support all our clubs around the country. Some clubs are struggling to get numbers. There's clubs in the bigger urban areas are struggling with the numbers that they're getting. So, you know, there's a challenge from both sides there. So I think there's an interesting bit of work to be done there, and technology will certainly help map out what that might look like in the future. And something that probably kind of landed on us this year was when matches were behind closed doors. All of a sudden, matches were starting again. Spectators couldn't attend. Clubs and counties were thrust into trying to do streaming, and they all found unconventional ways, more conventional ways. They all had a different approach, and we had an interesting conference last week ourselves where we got the approach from 4 or 5 different counties that just gathered their experience, but there was certainly challenges with it. There were people who had difficulties, but as time went on, they grew into it and they learned a lot from it. But streaming, I think now at local level and at county level is something that that's going to be with us even when spectators do start returning to games. So it's definitely an area that probably needs a bit of help, and some technology investigation would help a lot of our clubs and counties. So that's kind of 2 things that jumped out at me there in the last 12 months particularly.
I think just to jump on the back of Sean's last point there, well, both points really, you know, you talk about streaming and you talk about some counties and clubs that have and haven't. It's the same for us, and we're rugby. You know, in some unions we go to can't stream games and they might only have a single camera coverage. And this goes back to both Ian and James's point. You know, if you have one camera recording a game, they're going to miss the players. You're not going to get them full time. So they're not going to see how much running they're doing. They're not maybe they're not going to have the GPS units. There's definitely a difference with the different different money in the world when it comes to that type of stuff. And look, we do our best to try and equal it out, but there's technology is getting cheaper. There's no doubt, particularly with the cloud and being able to process information up there. 5G, everyone talks about 5G. Will it be an answer? It'll be an answer to something. It may be an answer to connectivity. We know there's fantastic technologies in the world. We know there's fantastic people who want to implement them, and they're not that expensive. But particularly when you get to a venue, it can be extremely challenging for connectivity. You know, if it's not a world-class venue like Croke Park or the Aviva or even some of the counties, the county pitches, you go down to a local club, you may not have any connectivity. And I think that is definitely separating what people can do. There is one thing I'd like to maybe throw back to the boys at the start, and affects everybody. Maybe it affects, you know, soccer, rugby, sports, other sports like that more than the GAA, and you'll understand why in a minute. If you want to transfer, you know, between clubs or, you know, things like that, go across the globe with your data, at the minute, you know, I'll just throw it out there. Who owns the data? Because I know from a player's point of view, the guys I'm sure would love to say that they own the data. I wonder from a club's point of view, because they're paying for the data to be taken and they pay to get it analysed and they use it, would they own it? And from a governing body point of view, you know, we would love to say we have the right to own some of the data. But when you consider the amount of data belonging to a player, like the guys sure can go into depth here, but you have your medical data, your anti-doping, your disciplinary, your load, your training, your match performance, so on and so forth. And you even see it now in every sport. use software like Piero that does the speed on the pitch, that doesn't need to be used from a hardware device on the player, can be done from camera angles. I just imagine if you're coming up to contract negotiations, maybe you're in the twilight of your career and it shows your speed dropping off. Would you want it shown? Would you not want it shown? Because that all feeds into fan engagement as well. And, you know, the fans want to know more. And we know from all the studies we've done, most people don't look at one screen anymore. It's 2 or 3. They'll have the main screen going. They'll have, you know, maybe Twitter going on the phone. They'll have something else going on the iPad beside them. And they're fully engaged in the sport that they're watching. And it is all about entertainment. There's no doubt. Obviously, player welfare being number one, because the players aren't playing. There's no entertainment. But after the player welfare, it's definitely about entertainment, you know. And it's the camera angles that Thomas spoke about. It's the access to infrastructure that Sean spoke about. It's, you know, Microsoft and what Jonathan spoke about, doing it all in the cloud. And as Amos said, with the Guinness Innovation Centre, there's so many new ideas coming up. So yeah, the player data for me, and who owns it, and maybe there's something to be done with a player passport or Bitcoin or something there.
Yeah, I actually haven't a clue what the story is with the data, because I think I'm the same as James. I've been under the IRFU umbrella for my whole career, so that's obviously quite fluid across whatever team you're playing for. So that's never actually come up for me or been an issue, but it would be interesting to find out who actually does own the data at the end of the day, because I'm sure there's streams and streams of data going back to medical records and everything that I suppose, do you want, I suppose, new teams to know that you might have a dodgy knee that might affect you going to a club if they signed it? So,
or the obvious one that jumps out from football is media rights. You know, like Ian, I'm sure there's photographs of you at the swimming pool in Dubai, because I'm sure I spotted you there. Like, who owns the rights to that stuff of you hopping in the pool, you know? And that could be, you think of football and soccer, how much the guys are making from the cover of PlayStation games.
Yeah, no, I'm sure their image is a lot more, costs a lot more than my image, but yeah, I know what you mean. It is an interesting debate to have, and it's something that I suppose maybe does need to be addressed in the future.
With medical, sorry to hop in, with medical information, I know that we personally own our own medical information, but with the likes of GPS data and gym scores and all of the other data points that are collected around us, we would have wavered that off at the very beginning of when they would have signed it in an agreement. Again, you know, the importance of your pay, you know, your pace dropping off and people knowing about it, you know, it's kind of, I'm not, it would probably be player to player whether they care about that, but definitely your medical data is your own, and it's up to you whether you want to share that or not. It's not the IRFU's to share with the media. But the any other data, as far as I'm aware, is we wavered off that we share the ownership with the IRFU.
I must have missed that when I just signed it away.
And Noli, just to finish off there for me, everybody in sport, in every sport, but the vast majority of people in every sport are in it for the good of the sport. There's no doubt. They're not in it to, you know, to make money or do harm to anybody. But and that in itself is a challenge. You know, you've so many volunteers, and Thomas might have seen the same, and even the guys playing. You've new coaches coming in and new administrators and new volunteers, and I've used this application, I've used that application. Don't tell me about GDPR. I just want to come in here and coach and do my job. So there's multiple technology related, non-technology problems, let's put it that way. You know, the human element when you get into this. So I suppose people have to think about that when they're designing, thinking of our other people in the call here, when they're designing their applications or the technology solutions as well, to think about that.
And just sort of one last point, Ronan, you mentioned kind of player welfare. You kind of touched on it. I suppose I just kind of like to bring up the issue around, I think it's maybe something technology could solve, and it's kind of around concussion. I mean, you know, it's such a hot topic today in all sports, GAA, rugby, soccer, NFL. It is huge, and the repercussions are kind of coming to a head at the moment. So I think I'd love to see, and I'd love there was an option where technology was there to be able to better diagnose a concussion as it happens. Because look, at the moment, and I know all sports organizations are doing their best to try and diagnose it, but it still is kind of, it's a bit not archaic, but a person's watching a video, sees a suspected concussion, you get pulled into the change room and you do a baseline test with a doctor, and that's kind of how they diagnose it initially. And I know 10 years, 15 years ago in school, there was no such thing as concussion. It was you hurt your head, get back out there. And no, definitely now it is much better. But I think I'd love to see, in such a space like technology and with the help of people like Microsoft with their backing, I think it's something that definitely warrants looking into more and investigating and see if there's something there that we can make to just give it a definitive yes or no. You have concussion, you don't have concussion.
Yeah, you're dead right, Ian. You know, and totally agree with what you said, all those points. And it'd be great to see a technology to be able to help diagnose that. I suppose maybe the fact that it has to be done, because you can imagine if somebody did come up with a solution, like every sport would want it and pay handsomely for it, and rightly so. I suppose the fact that one hasn't been developed yet will show how difficult it probably is, you know, to do.
An idea for the weekend for participants, maybe.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to come back into the questions. I like the sporty ones. So this is going to be for Ian and James again. So you spoke about the role of technology in regards of your endurance, your performance, recovery, and, you know, prevention of injury as well. And we've spoken about, you know, GDPR and data and things like that. I'd be wondering how you view technology as an athlete, as a player, as someone who is passionate about the sport. How do you view technology and its, you know, influences, say, within sports? I'm going to go with James first, just because Ian was the last one to speak. Sorry, James.
That's all right. How would I view technology? Technology is what I would describe as it's been the stepping stone between old school and new school, and in every sense of that word. In that, you know, like rugby, not that long ago, 15 years ago, would have been pints after training on a Tuesday, and certainly pints after every game. And recovery was, you know, it was a word. It wasn't a part of the job. It wasn't even a job until 20 years ago. And technology has been a huge part of that, and it's enabled rugby, it's enabled every single sport in the world to become the best version of itself and keep getting better. And I think a few of the guys have touched on like the fan experience, and at the end of the day, we're entertainers. You know, we get into the game because we love it, but when you get to the professional end, it's about entertaining people and making it the best experience for them as possible, and enjoying it ourselves as much as possible. I think like technology has facilitated that, from as I said, from recovery and high performance point of view. It's just the possibilities are endless, and as Ian touched on with concussion, I think it's really important that things like that are, you know, there's a solution found for it, because it's probably one of the only areas at the minute where it is a bit old school. It is moving in the right direction, but there's definitely solutions that can be made with technology that could streamline it.
Yeah, I'd have to echo everything James has said there. It's kind of a cliche, but it's those 1% kind of, I mean, those video sessions are looking at your statistics and stuff. It's all small things, but they add up in the end. I know, like anything, there's some lads who will embrace it and some lads just don't want anything to do with it. Some boys will like look at the report and analyze every single meter that everyone's done on a training session, and some lads will see it and just walk straight by it. They don't really care. I'm not sure where you fall in there, James, but I know for me, I enjoy kind of looking at the stats and then kind of looking at everyone else's then and seeing where they're at.
Yeah, it is a point of conversation. I see Joe saying nightmare trying to get the J1 rugby lads out of the night.
I wasn't going to say anything. We're going to keep that one quiet.
Oh, listen, it still is a part to play, and the nightclubs are getting more technical as well. So I think that's an important part of switching on.
That's another conversation, moving the J1 games to a Saturday, I think.
Getting the Uber or in and out of town, that's another great advancement in technology.
Perfect, thanks guys. So the next one I'm actually going to ask, so we spoke about, when it comes to data and everything like that as well. So one thing I actually want to ask is more specifically to do with the hackathon that's coming up. And I'm going to direct this question over to Jonathan. What are the hopes, or what is Microsoft hoping to get from creating this hackathon?
Well, so I think, and I think you're very good to say we created it, but I think, to be fair, that's, this is really the hard work of the Irish, the Irish Tech Society and the GAA, and we're very pleased to be on board as partners to that. But I think, and the reason why we came on board is, I think one of the things that our CEO talks about is the idea of tech intensity, and it's how what we're seeing across all industries is that technology is becoming a disruptor, and it's also forcing a lot of organizations to build out that capability within their own businesses, to think about how they can use software and technology to help them stay relevant in their own market and in their own industries. And I think events like this are a great way to kind of have that sort of experiential, hands-on experience of using these technologies to actually build products and maybe get some way to creating something that could become close to an MVP in the future. So I think that was, there's a lot of innovation that's been driven. There's some really great ideas, even just from this discussion, that would be great to see explored. And it's really to give the participants in the hackathon over the weekend just that hands-on experience of looking at, well, how can technologies help to solve some of these challenges and opportunities that we see right across the sports tech industry, whether that be looking at how you can better use the data that's being collected, how you can improve the fan experience, how you can improve health outcomes for players, how you can make the solutions more secure, whatever the thing is. So I think there's just, it's just, there's lots of different angles to look at, and it really makes sense. And I think in terms of what the Irish Tech Society is trying to do in the forum they're trying to create, I think it is really innovative in and of itself. And then obviously we've worked with the GAA on a number of projects over the years, and it's great to be able to collaborate with them again for this initiative.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm just going to ask Eamon, I'm going to shoot you this question, and this is more so like, what are the supports that are available at the moment to social entrepreneurs and tech innovators within the sports industry?
Yeah, so I suppose in general, there's general supports. If you've got an idea that that you don't intend scaling, what I mean by scaling as in bringing it international, then you've got the local enterprise office to work with directly, and they'll assist you with maybe in a simple way. They will help you become an entrepreneur. They'll explain to you the pitfalls to look out for. They'll give you a mentor, and they'll just give you be able to how can you run a business. At a much deeper level, Enterprise Ireland get involved, where they invest in early stage companies. They have two particular programs. One is called Competitive Start Fund. The other one is called High Potential Startup. To qualify, you've got to convince them that you're going to create 10 jobs within the next 3 years. You're going to generate revenues of $1 million plus within the next 3 years, and they'll invest money and time in you if you can. I suppose I won't use the word prove it, because obviously nobody can prove it, but if you can just tell them a story well enough to convince them to say, do you know what, that journey sounds like a journey we want to be on, we want to support, we want to back. And they'll look to invest for a competitive start fund, 50K for 10%. And then at High Potential Startup, they'll invest $250,000 if you can get $250,000 from the private sector. Within our role, so we'll help you, we'll mentor you, we'll help you become investor ready. So investor ready is twofold. One, obviously trying to raise money through Enterprise Ireland, which is a government agency. And then the second one is through business angels. So one of my colleagues runs on an all-island basis, so including Northern Ireland, what's called the Halo Business Angel Network. And actually they've got their annual event on next week. So last year, 14 million euro was invested by angel investors across the country in Ireland. And I'd be aware of a lot of sports tech companies that would have got funding down that route. So you're getting funding from individuals. Potentially you can get funding from syndicates. And there are syndicates there's a syndicate now in the food space. There's a syndicate in the ICT space. There's a syndicate in the agri space, and I know they're looking at 1 or 2 other areas. I don't think the sports tech space is, as an entity in itself, is wide enough yet to have its own syndicate. But these would be high net worth individuals with skills and knowledge in that particular space to become members of the syndicates. But also interestingly, now we've syndicates, international syndicates. So a syndicate out of London, a syndicate out of New York, a syndicate out of Singapore, and these are looking to invest in early stage Irish companies who are looking to expand into these marketplaces. So that's a significant departure in Ireland, and year on year, more and more of these overseas investors are investing in Irish companies. Ireland is becoming a real hotbed of activity for investors because we're creating great companies, number one, but we're also attracting a lot of early stage investors into companies, into Ireland, who want to use Ireland as their home and their base for global dominance, as it were. We're also getting a lot of people who might be working beside Jonathan and others in Microsoft, who are learning from multinationals in Ireland and might decide, okay, I see a niche in my industry and I want to go. Ireland is good a place as any to grow and scale a company. So we're finding that maybe a third of the companies who are getting funding are coming from people who have experience in working with global companies already. So from a sports tech point of view, one of the things we do in the GEC, we work quite closely with Rugby Players Ireland. So if any rugby player has a business idea, we'll have a quiet one-to-one to see how we can help. We do the same with the Irish Olympians, and we, on an individual level, we're doing a lot of work with GAA players. And it's all about, it's not about us helping them directly. It's about us being able to listen and to encourage them to talk to other people. At the earliest stage, for any company, what a person wants is a bit of buttress, a bit of support. What you don't want is your family and friends saying to you, that's a great idea, because they believe that's supporting you. And as soon as you walk out the door, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe James or Ian are going to do that. But they just feel as a friend or as a member of family, they're there to support. So our job is to be the independent person and say, Jesus, that's a tough journey you're going to create. But you know what? We're here to support you. We're going to introduce you to some people who are in the industry. We're going to introduce you to some entrepreneurs who have already done the journey. Or even entrepreneurs who may have scaled out significantly, and might be even in your industry, but have started off as you were, but they were only 3 years ahead of you on a similar journey. So, all we can do is encourage people to try things and give them as much support as we can. And I think, what we're going to learn, I'm really always excited by Hackathon because it's always about ideas. And somebody in the left-hand corner of the screen will have the great idea, but somebody in the right-hand corner might be able to come up with the business model behind the idea. And that's what we want to do all weekend, is come up with collaboration. We're going to do great things for the GAA, and we're going to do great things for the community of sport in Ireland in general.
That's really amazing to hear, Eamon, especially because we're in times of uncertainty, so that people know that there are supports out there, that you can come in with an idea and you'll be guided throughout the whole process, and it doesn't really matter where you are. So thank you for giving us a bit of optimism and reassurance, especially in these times. I'm also just going to ask anybody in the audience if they want to throw in some questions for the Q&A.
Actually, Nani, sorry to cut you off. We've actually run out of time, so we're actually going into the Q&A. So I know we talk way too much. Did you not see this? This is what happens when we get together, girl. Ending up taking over everybody's time, going over time. Sorry, got a message there. I need to hurry it up. So guys, so we do have the Q&A portion of the event of the panelists. So the panelists, I'm going to open it up to our attendees and our participants who have stayed with us throughout this evening. I actually have one question already. This is going to be the Q&A, and then I do have one from Abdullah Hassan. So the first question I'm actually going to ask, and I think this is for Jonathan, how does Microsoft, or can Microsoft help intend to help out with the GDPR rights of players? So I think this is actually in response to the question that you posed, Ronan, just in regards to the data with the players, and they're just wondering if Microsoft, if they can impact or come in that sense and help out.
Yeah, so I think the way I think I would answer that is that from a platform perspective, Microsoft has written the GDPR regulations into our own terms and conditions, and we were actually one of the first, if not the first, technology company to do that back in 2018, if not a little bit earlier than that. So I guess what that means is that when you use our cloud platform, you can avail you can do so knowing that we are in compliance with GDPR. But I think there's a distinction, and especially when you're building products, that it's up to you to ensure that the product that you build conforms with whatever the GDPR regulations that are relevant in terms of a rugby player. So I think the benefit that you get is that you're using a platform that is compliant by design. But then in terms of the application that you build, that's something that you need to sort of specifically to take into consideration. So it's a little bit like we would talk a little bit into areas like this. We would talk about shared responsibility, where we do so much in terms of what the platform is capable to do. But ultimately, if you're building a product that handles a rugby player's or anybody's data, that product in and of itself, in terms of how people access it and how the data is stored and secured, because you have options around that, is compliant with whatever the standard is, GDPR or others.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Jonathan. I have Abdullah, our international ambassador for ITS there, who has a question. Abdullah, I'm calling you up there.
Hey, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
Hi, we can indeed. Hiya, how are you?
I'm good. Well, actually, it's not a question. It's more of a comment. I'm first of all very pleased to be involved with the discussion here, and very privileged to be among some professional players. And I'm going to say something which probably the players would understand, the others would not. I think the sports industry is very geared around revenues that come to clubs and agents and the likes of those. I think the players in general are sometimes considered secondary assets. And I think that needs to change. And that needs to change because if the development of the sport has to happen, it has to happen on a mental level. And the mental wellness of a player is not well suited if technology does not support it. Now, we were talking about concussion. There's enough concussion technology in American football, enough. They have collars that are worn. So I think there's a lot of collaboration that can be done to bring in technology in Irish sports, if that is what is missing. In terms of mental well-being, we have personally invested in an Imperial College London startup which does emotion and gesture recognition, where we actually, when we are signing up players, we actually check their mental wellness, whether they're completely there with the new club or no. I think there's a lot of technology in the world. I think it just needs to be packaged and brought to the right space. But the objective has to be clear and good. And the objective has to be the well-being of the player and his family or her family. And I think that is something that I see as a venture capitalist, as somebody who speaks on entrepreneurship. I see that missing. So when I met a few professional footballers in England, and I was surprised to know that they had better entrepreneurial ideas than the kids in the universities. Why? Because they were actually doing things on the pitch and realizing that there is a gap there. So they were talking about changes to their boots. They were talking to changes to their wear. So I think there are entrepreneurs in every professional player. It's just that somebody has to take the time, or these professional players have to take the time out, usually during their summer breaks or something, 2 weeks to just prepare themselves to be entrepreneurs. So yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion you guys are having. I wasn't really planning to speak anything, but I like the fact that sports and sports people are around, and we all like them. I do not like to refer to them as entertainers. They're professional athletes. They deserve a lot of respect, and they deserve a lot of support. I think their support should not stop when they retire. It should continue because they have a lot to contribute, both to the sport and to society.
Wow. I'm even like shook at them, like, okay, let me just hold on.
Yeah, that's
anybody
very much,
yeah.
And I must say, like you're saying, the collaboration, I think that's why events like this are so important. I mean, getting the likes of the GAA, the Irish Tech Society, and Microsoft together working on the same project is absolutely fantastic. And to touch on your point about the entrepreneurship, Eamon, and through the Enterprise Ireland and through our union, the Rugby Players Ireland,
they actually do a lot of work trying to get us into that space, which has been fantastic over the years. And I know there's a few players who have retired and through that program have managed to kick on a business and stuff. And I think that's only gaining momentum at the moment. I know more and more players are getting involved in that program early on in their career before they retire to kind of get them set up. So when it makes that transition from retirement into the next stage of your career a lot easier. But it is great to hear that you're doing so much work over as well.
So one of the best advice I give to professional players is whenever you want to shift to entrepreneurship, don't jump onto the bandwagon because it's scary. What you do first is you start up as an angel investor. So you club yourself with probably some of the gentlemen here who have incubators and accelerators. So you behave as a small 50,000 quid or something like that, just to get involved into the process. And then you understand how the eco cycle works, because entrepreneurship is an island by itself. Whoever you are, you're a professional person or a young person out of college, because I teach this, so I'll be very honest here. So I don't want you to get into something because as a professional athlete, your expectation levels are much different to a normal person. You're used to winning. We guys try to win. If we don't win, what's the big deal, right? But for you, it's fans, it's ratings, it's ranking, it's the next contract, etc. So for you to shift directly into entrepreneurship and get those same KPIs will be a little bit of a challenge. So generally the advice is try to go first on small little venture investments as an angel investor, learn the exercise and then say, okay, I think I know what this is.
I'd say, James, you're probably more equipped to answer this question, seeing as you've kind of kicked off a few things already and you're still playing.
Yeah, I think it was a question. That was more
yeah, speak with it,
yeah. Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with what you said there. I've invested in a few different startups, and I've started my own company. I think it was the best thing that I ever did. You know, you realize how hard it really is, and how hard it is to deal with people when it's not their baby, and dealing with staff and stuff like that, and difficulties and working out problems, and you learn a lot more than any course or anything will teach you, is what I've found.
Abdullah, can I sign up for them social entrepreneurship? I want to make some money. You can teach me. I'm okay with me and Noni taking notes out here.
Making money is the easy part. Just getting there is the difficult part.
Yeah, I know.
Just even what James was saying, it ends up being more about the nitty gritty, the day-to-day, the stuff that nobody teaches you in college. It's only when you immerse yourself in that environment and everyone's looking at you.
Yeah, but that's what James has gone through in his entire professional career. He's trained day in and day out to do what? To perform excellence. And then there's an environment that comes, which is outside excellence, which means there are other players who are trying to do the same thing. Entrepreneurship is pretty much like that. It is where you're competing with your product or service with somebody else. So a sports person, and I found this personally, I found a sports athlete or a professional far more geared for entrepreneurship than a regular person, because a regular person does not know how to handle failure. A sports person is pretty geared to understand and manage the concept of failure. Entrepreneurship only works if you know how to handle failure. It's not about trying to pursue success.
Okay.
Perfect. I just have one more question here. Sorry, guys. This is actually for Eamon. Eamon, one of our attendees wants to know, Ireland is well known for its sport, but where would you place Ireland's overall contribution to sports tech?
Oh,
I know.
Well, I think there's some great products out there that some Irish companies have created, and some of them are world leaders in what they do. One of the products actually was created by a former physio with the Leinster rugby team from a company called Cumann Labs, and some of the leading professional teams in the United States and in the UK, in the Premier League and in the NFL and the NBA are using their product. A company called Huggity are being brought by go to major events across the world. NFL again use them, Premier League use them, the Olympic Games. They go in and the Crow Park it's participated in Crow Park. They take a 360-degree picture of all the crowd, and you go and find yourself at the game. So it's a really fantastic interactive piece of technology, but it's a marketing piece rather than a sports tech, but it's used in the sports space. And I think that's probably the important thing when it comes to sport tech. It's rarely about the sport itself. It's about, you know, improving an athlete rather than the sport. It's improving the experience of a supporter rather than the sport. So the sports tech is such a wide brief. I think a lot of food companies are building themselves around the sports space. Kerry Group, for example, in the ingredient space. And just going back then also on the retirement, I hate the word retirement because, you know, it's a change of job to a large extent. You know, but I think what's, yeah, you know, don't get me wrong, it's a big leap. You're going out of one environment completely to another, but, you know, I've seen people do the same in their jobs. Everyone who finishes college, for example, goes straight from a relatively carefree environment and a laissez-faire environment into all of a sudden a work environment. That's a massive leap. Professional sport, a massive leap, but the massive leap is probably saying goodbye to a dressing room, saying goodbye to a support network, rather than fearing the next challenge. So it's actually you know, it's a mental thing of looking backwards and harnessing all the good things and not being able to channel them correctly. But from a GA perspective, what I've found in you know, retirement is it's often forgotten. We often talk about the retirement of professional athletes. There's a huge number of amateur athletes, even at club level. And the guys were joking about the J1 rugby player. When they say goodbye to somebody in their sport and when they retire from it, that's actually a really critical moment because they don't have that professional arm around them to support them. They're very much left to their own devices. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's cut short by injury, and that's a very difficult one to plan for. But sports tech in Ireland is in a very good space. Actually, sorry, I should have mentioned also in the golf space, we're very strong, yeah, as a particular sport. And we're working with 2 or 3 of them right now to see can they modify their product and bring that technology into other sports. Yeah. But one of the problems is you know, it's very much trying to finance, trying to go global as quickly as you can. Because there's such a very open market when it comes to sport, coaches are very good at sharing what's best. So if you get what's best, you need to get out your best product out to the marketplace very quickly.
Okay, thanks for that. So guys, we are officially kind of at the end of our panel. So thank you so much for our panelists for joining us. And just before, I'm going to hand it over to Glenn and to Michael as well before we close out. So Michael, I'm going to actually give you the floor. And then we can go on from there.
That's great, CF. Thank you very much indeed for that. This reminds me of a story. There was a dispute apparently in the Tipperary County Board a number of years back. And the Ard Quishta seconded a member of the Cork County Board to cross the county bounds and deploy some diplomacy and tact to try and find a resolution to this dispute. And while he gave a contribution, he was reminded he was from Cork. And then he responded with indignation that, yes, I was born in Cork, I was reared in Cork, and one of these days I'll be buried in Cork. To which came a retort, typical Corkman, no bloody ambition. I think what we've seen over the last couple of hours is a creativity and an imagination that really, you know, characterizes who we are as Irish people. And the value of tech in terms of our economy, which is moving ever so faster into the next phase and into the next phase. And it's, I think, reminiscent of Ireland as a base. So we provided, for example, largely a skilled manufacturing base to the IBMs in the 1950s, to Microsoft in the 1970s. And now it's very much sophisticated, very technical, a very highly skilled professional tech workforce, and has also provided an important basis to attract foreign direct investment. Henry Ford opened the production in Cork in 1917, a production facility. And by adding to our skill set and by looking beyond the pale, we as a country have developed into a modern, sophisticated, forward-looking nation, albeit 4.5 million people. But now in the post-Brexit landscape, 4.5 million people on an island with access to the rest of the European Union in terms of a population of 500 million. And what COVID, I think, has taught us over the last 12 months is provided huge challenges. It has provided a lot of difficulties for families and for society in general, but we've responded in kind with a resilience, with an energy and with a creativity that is fit for purpose. And I think today's discussion, and I think the interaction, for example, between tech and sport is another installment of that. Can I again just repeat my appreciation to the contributors, to the sponsors and the organisers, because from the Irish Tech Society point of view, when that idea germinated last year, nobody really knew where it was going to go. Nobody could have foretold the difficulties not just Ireland was facing, but also the global economy was facing. But yet demonstrated again that resilience and that ambition, which allows us, I think, to unlock opportunities and create a basis by which we can, you know, positively look forward to the future. And that old saying from great oaks grow from little acorns. And I think the discussion that we've had is an example of that. Now, I don't want to hog the floor because I think Greg is next. I think the introduction will perhaps be made by your good self, but I want to just repeat my appreciation to everybody for their contributions and for the support of the event. And I want to wish the event not just success these days, but also in terms of the post-COVID environment, where hopefully we can meet up in person.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. Well said. I'm conscious that I'm probably the only thing standing between you all on your dinner, so I'll be brief. Thank you, everyone, for coming. The Irish Tech Society, at its core, it's about innovation, networking, but critically, it's about community. I myself have been utilizing the technology with a particular focus on artificial intelligence for my sins for over 15 years now. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that whatever technology you utilize, it's only as good as the people behind it. Ireland has an amazing opportunity to put ourselves forward over the coming years as a real leader in tech talent. And the Irish Tech Society intends to play a key role in that development over the coming years. Please visit our website, irishtechsociety.ie, for further information on how to become a member of our global community. Memberships have been designed to cater for all, from students and graduates to professionals, pioneers, and luminaries. Finally, a special thanks again to everyone involved in putting on this great event, with a particular thanks to Paul Reardon, Pierre Picard, Leah Cullen, and Fais Faisal for all their hard work over the past few months. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into putting on this event. I will now hand over to CK, who will provide an overview of what lies in store tomorrow. Over to you, CK.
Thanks, Greg. Do you know what? I'm literally having a chat with one of the guys. You look like a sports commentator. You literally look like you're reporting live in the box. I'm looking at you and I was like, oh my God, it literally looks like you're in there. So
thank you. It's what I was going for tonight. Thank you.
So for you, I need to say, like, perfect. You are the ideal persons you have on here. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It has been an absolute honor for me to co-host along with my lovely co-host. I can't see her on the Zoom, but she's here with Noni this evening. So we are going to be keeping the line open just a few more minutes for people to network. But I do want to make you guys aware that there will be another event on tomorrow, so you can join myself and Noni back again. So if you had fun hanging out with us today, and if you had fun with the topic of conversation, the amazing speakers, the banter, and everything else that happens, say join us tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about D&I. To be very honest, it's just going to be really, really good, really insightful. But I do hope all of you have a great day. I'm so honored, and I do have to say, absolutely floored to actually be a part of this amazing event. So to the founder and CEO, thank you so much for reaching out to me and asking me to be a host. I'm going to leave it there because I know y'all are hungry, so mad, but we're going to sit here for a few more minutes, going to get to know each other a little bit better, maybe even get to speak to some of our speakers if we can, as well as that. So for anyone who does have to go, it was lovely seeing you today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow, because we don't see you tomorrow. So me and Noni are officially signing off. Noni, are you there? Because I'm sorry, love, I cannot see you. So we're going to officially sign off. But please do hang back with us and have the chats and have the laughs. Thank you.
Thanks so much, CK. Thanks so much, Noni.
Thanks, guys.
Guys, I'm just gonna jump in here and say, like, I know you all want to go, but if there's anyone who would like to stay back and network with each other, I'm going to be creating some breakout rooms, and I'm going to keep the call open as long as possible, but not mandatory, not compulsory. If you want to, the option is there. And really, everyone really appreciate your attendance here and, you know, for being a part of the event. Thanks so much.
This is me raising the roof
Thanks,
because
guys.
we had so much fun. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
To all the participants.
Yes, best of luck as well. We are so excited to see what's going to be happening over the next couple of days. I'm actually really excited just for the Sunday. Want to see this, need to see this live. I'm excited to see it.
Be at the same time as the Sunday game. That's the GAA reference, by the way.
Perfect. Okay. So you're creating the breakout rooms now.
Yeah, I will. I'll just let everyone, you know, who wants to leave, take their leave now, and then we can create the breakout rooms. Is Eamon still here? Just want to, you know, give him a happy birthday to you. He's gone already.
Oh, he's gone. He knew it was
anticipated.
Yeah. But yeah, Greg, I would love to buy that same kind of tie that you have there.
You have to. He literally,
I'm eyeing that.
When you were talking the entire time you were closing off the event, all I could focus on was like, man, I feel like I'm watching a match. I feel like he's about to turn around and start shouting and screaming because something's gonna happen.
So I hope the message wasn't lost with the tie.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah. Ian, yeah, sorry, go on.
No, go on ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. No, I was just saying, Ian, if you want to reach out to Abdullah, he's one of our international ambassadors. He works with the royal family in Kuwait. He was also the head of the Talent Incubation Project for Julia Gillard, the ex-Prime Minister of Australia.
Oh, nice.
So I could write an email, introduce you to him.
Yeah,
formally,
that'd be
and
fantastic.
maybe.
Yeah, that'd be unbelievable.
Yeah, I sense like, you know, there was a good bit of conversation going on between
Yeah,
the two
yeah,
of you guys.
We'd rather run out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I could have spoken to him for much longer, so that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, sure, no problem. And Ronan, what do you think of the entire event itself?
Oh, listen, I think it's great. I think we didn't have long enough in an hour, but we didn't want to bore people too much, to be quite honest with you. Listen, there's loads can be done. There's so many areas. And I think Thomas mentioned so many of them as well in the GAA. You know, the back office, the administration, the player registration, the eligibility. Like, we suffer from World Rugby from all these things as well. So, you know, it's not any particular sport. So whatever ideas the guys come up with, there'll be loads of avenues for them if they're good ideas. Back to the fan engagement and entertainment itself, like that's a huge, massive area just on its own. There's many different facets, and if I think about my organization, you know, we have the corporate technology, which is your normal back office, corporate finance, legal, communications, you know, digital, social media. We have the competitions and everything that happens around competitions, and then we have what happens on the pitch. You know, so the guys mentioned concussion, they mentioned the stats, the taking of stats, the graphics, that leads into the broadcast, streaming, geo-blocking, multi-language commentary done on the web, all these different things that we're doing now, you know. And particularly when you think of COVID, any of you interested in broadcast would have seen BT last March, nearly straight away when COVID hit, went from what you may have heard as remote production, but they went one step forward into distributed production. So they had people sitting at home in their bedrooms and their garages, individually putting together broadcasts that they were sending out to the world. So look, there's oceans and oceans of areas to be looked at, many an opportunity. Just
yeah, and
good ideas.
Yeah, but do you think that what Abdullah was saying there, like, you know, there's lots of technologies being invented, but maybe it's about, you know, putting it together and bringing it to the right place? Do you think there's a gap between, you know, what's out there in maybe USA or UK and what we have in Ireland?
No, I wouldn't. If anything, we're doing better than we probably should be. You know, Cumann Labs was mentioned. The guys mentioned not the product, but about the GPS units, and it's StatSport. We're based out of Dundalk. You know, you have Stats Perform. Okay, not an Irish company, now based in Limerick. We're doing very well as a very, very small nation. We're doing very well because we're passionate about what we're involved in, whether that be sport or technology or whatever you're involved in, you're passionate about. I think we're doing very well. I think what we personally in rugby and probably GAA would suffer from as well is money, you know, and you have some brilliant technology comes to you and then you get, well, how much is it going to cost to do X, Y, and Z? And like my normal response is, look, we're not football. You know, like the budgets of some of the Premiership soccer clubs will be multitudes of what we have every year. So startups, minimum viable product, yeah, fantastic. Use us, use the GAA, use the small sports to prove what you want. And that's good for the sports as well. But in terms of making money, yeah, it's really football or the American sports you need to be looking at. There's no doubt.
Ronan, can I ask you a question? You had mentioned just about the streaming and that, you know, regional streaming wasn't doing as good as like the big. Like how, obviously it's better to have people sitting in the box seats, but has streaming been a significant enough impact for revenue this past year? And could you is it open for you guys to run sort of like a, you know, like instead of a season ticket, you have a season like kind of like a Netflix, but for like the matches, do you know?
Yeah, it is, but not for us. Sorry for that answer. The reason is we haven't had a rugby event since last March.
Okay.
We've missed all. Poor Ian hasn't been out on his normal circuit traveling around the world on the sevens, unfortunately.
Missing South Africa too, Ian. So
yeah, we wanted to say that because we were like, shout out to us because that's where we're from. We were like, represent.
yeah. So we've unfortunately had to cancel a hell of a lot of events. You know, we're hoping the Women's Rugby World Cup will happen in New Zealand this year. Sorry, where I'm going with this, to answer your question, any events that we own, we have the possibility to stream them into regions where the rights are not sold. So we haven't sold the broadcast rights. When you talk about season passes, I suppose look what the FAI have done. You know, the Irish Soccer League in terms of Sligo Rovers. I spent some time in Sligo, and I know Gerald's from there. So look what they've done. You know, you couldn't see it on telly. Now you can go and watch it for a game for $5 or $10. You know, things like that. Rugby Pass was a big organisation bought by Sky New Zealand, Sky TV New Zealand about a year ago. But Rugby Pass was that. You buy a pass. It was mainly for the expats in Asia. So to watch the Six Nations, you couldn't see it anywhere. You went to Rugby Pass. It was an OTT platform. And OTTs are popping up everywhere. Pro 14 of their own. ECPR, who run the Heineken Cup, now have their own. GAA have their own for a long time with GAA Go outside the Republic, outside the 32 counties. So yeah, there's loads of opportunities, Noni. And to go back to one thing that I touched on, what we've done in the last 3 years, and it helped. You know, we're obviously a world body, and we were only broadcasting in English. So what we've done recently is hook up with a Kiwi-based company for online multilingual commentary. So instead of sending commentators on site for all the various different languages, they just basically take the clean feed, or the word feed, ingest it into their solution, broadcast, or commentators from around the world use their solution, and they layer it on top and provide it back to us for our website. So I think one event last year, we had 14 different languages, including Hindi, on a 7th event, which was fantastic. You know, it's about being all inclusive. So things like that. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So have we any ideas thrown forward yet of what people are looking at doing?
Guys, if you want to do also, Ronan, sorry to jump in there. If anybody would like to have a one-on-one with any of the speakers, we could create breakout rooms. But I just felt like, you know, maybe the number is a bit small for that. But if you're up for it, you know, I'm up for it. And also, if anyone's up for, I don't know, you can see
He's stressed, Joe.
Yeah.
Kind of disappearing there, Fais. Looked like half a glass of whiskey. Was that what I saw?
It's the bottle, Greg. It's just he only showed the end of the bottle.
I thought as much.
Yeah. Have you not noticed that? We had a bit of tech issues during the one stage. I couldn't reach him at all. I think he was asleep. No, I'm joking. But guys, thank you so much. I'm really excited for tomorrow. I'm really happy with the way that today went as well, and I hope you guys are. I do have to run. I'm going to have to hop off here and, you know, do something else. But I will catch up with you later. And Ian and Ronan, I will be connecting with you guys as well. Thank you so much. You guys were absolutely lovely and so nice as well. That was nice that the speakers are nice, you know, because I was like, oh, we nervous. Oh, no, I'm joking. I wasn't. I knew you were gonna be nice. But you had a wealth of information, great insights as well. And I know that the attendees and the participants really enjoyed having you guys as panelists on the discussion as well. All right, so I wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Like,
well done.
I'm outies.
See you guys.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
I'll see you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. CK, we might just do a little voice note just about feedback.
Yeah, I want to do a little debrief.
Yeah.
I was already gonna call you. Don't even worry about that.